So there isn't one like magic or silver bullet that can get you youth and vitality, right?
I don't know how many pills in here. I think last time we reported it was something like over 50, maybe 60. That looks like a lot more. So I'm not sure what's going on here.
Someone's perspective, this could be like, well, this is crazy.
Okay, so do you know who Bryan Johnson is?
Yeah, I think I've heard of Bryan Johnson.
Let me give you a rundown. So he's a CEO. He is a tech entrepreneur who made a lot of money by creating a payment company, which was called Braintree. PayPal bought it out for $800 million, and then they converted it into Venmo. So now Bryan Johnson is dedicating $2 million yearly to reverse his age and achieve a lifespan of 120 years. So before we jump into the video, I'm going to show you a picture of Bryan Johnson now, and I'm going to have you guess his age, okay?
Okay. Okay. I can guess.
Yeah, what would you think?
I would say mid-40s.
Why would you guess mid-40s?
I mean, he has some facial features which make him look a little younger, but he still looks kind of mid-40ish.
Okay, so yeah, so he's 47. I was digging into his videos a little bit, and it was pretty interesting. He said that he has the heart capacity of a 37-year-old, a lung capacity of an 18-year-old, and then the cognitive function of someone in their early 20s. So he does a lot of like procedures to achieve it. He's actually had 300 million stem cells injected into different parts of his body. He gets his son's blood transfused into his own system to improve his cognitive function. And we could do a whole different video about that if you want, but today we're gonna focus on his morning routines because it's just dedicated specifically to beauty. So I'm gonna have you react to this video right here. I chopped it up so it's like easier to pick out.
This is a little bit of a disaster, but let me give you a quick idea of what's going on over here so you know. This is the device I use for my dry eye. I'll do this for 30 seconds in the morning when I wake up, first thing. So basically I start here on the right-hand side and I move to the left. So first thing is the eye, 30 seconds. And the first time you would do this, it's gonna be the most intense, it's like an orgasmic sneeze. It's the most intense feeling you've ever had.
Do you know what that device is?
I do it more.
Probably just stimulates your lacrimal ducts, I think, to produce more.
And the second thing is I use these eye drops. This is for cataract prevention. I'm aware of the air quality, so it looks like air quality in Venice today is really bad, but I'm always aware of what the air quality is like. Okay, next is preparing the morning pills. Every 2 weeks, my team organizes all the pills. In between that time duration, we change certain things, and when we change it, it's a manual change, and these manual pills become my responsibility. So when I pull out my pill tins, I'll take the new manual ones we're taking, and then when the 2 week time frame comes, they'll be incorporated into the whole process. Yeah, you can see we're about midway through the 2 week cycle, so I have about a week left. These are my upon waking pills. Okay, now I have all these pills ready. I'll do the Green Giant. Talmadge and I have this pre-mixed so that it's quick. I'll do 5 tablespoons. You see I move pretty swiftly through this thing. So I don't know how many pills in here. I think last time we reported it was something like over 50, maybe 60. That looks like a lot more. So I'm not sure what's going on here. We have very little room for more before we need to change our pill tins.
Okay, so I actually have his pill list. And I want you to go through it and tell me what you think.
Okay, sure.
Like what's needed, just give your overall opinion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pills, a lot of supplements, but you know, I think to each their own, right? I think a lot of these supplements are associated, you know, clinical studies have probably shown, you know, anti-inflammatory effects or some beneficial effects. So it's just combining all these in one. I think to someone's perspective, this could be like, well, this is crazy. To others' perspective, it could be like, oh, this is like all makes sense, right? So I think it's finding that right balance of what works for you, right?
Okay, so he's a vegan, so I was wondering if it like makes, I don't know the reason that he's vegan either, but I was wondering like if it makes sense to cut out meat but then add all of those supplements.
I don't know if you should look at it a way. I don't think you should look at it as if does it make sense or doesn't make sense, right? Again, how someone lives their lifestyle in terms of cutting things out, right? Of being like vegetarian, being vegan, this or that. You can still supplement a lot of the kind of key nutrients or ingredients without, I guess, consuming animal products, right? So.
Are you able to go through the list and kind of recommend which supplements are best for like skin, for hair?
I mean, the way I see it, I don't think there's any one particular one that's indicated for skin or hair, right? But I think if you look at it as a whole, in terms of what they're doing, like B complex, garlic, ginger, lycopene, nicotinamide, turmeric, ubiquinol, zinc, these are all kind of interrelated, right? So there isn't one like magic or silver bullet that can get you youth and vitality, right? And that's just because as more and more we look into this and we look into just human biology and physiology, right? It's not A plus B equals C anymore, right? It's much, much more complex, right? So you have to take into effect kind of a network biology approach, right? By looking at metabolic or molecular processes, right? But how they're interrelated and how they relate to each other, right? And how each and one of these things can affect one another, right? So it's much more complicated. So yeah, that's all I have to say about about the ingredient list. Yeah.
Okay, so there is one more video. I think this one goes more into like microneedling.
So genetically, I should be bald. I started to lose my hair and go gray in my late 20s. I'm now 46. It's been a lot of hard work to keep the hair I have. Today, I'm going to walk you through my protocol, what I do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. I'm also going to share with you some special tips on how we've reversed my gray hair. Preliminary results, but we're encouraged. Now, it's important to note that the best time to work on your hair is before you start losing it. A lot of people wait until they start seeing a lot of shedding. Don't wait. Start doing hair care immediately.
Yeah, I would echo the same sentiment in terms of hair loss and I've been doing hair restoration for many years now, and it's the best time or the way you get the best results is to actually prevent more loss. Rather, if I have a patient who comes in, has lost all their hair, if I have a guy that comes in their mid 30s or 40s and they're completely bald, right? There's only so much you can do. There's only so many follicles that you can stimulate. Rather, if you start out younger and you notice thinning or some shedding, it's much, much easier to kind of revitalize or reverse the kind of process, or at least slow it down. Because once you've lost it, it is very, very difficult. So I do agree with those comments that he made.
Now, if you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, good time to start taking note that it's important. Otherwise, it's harder to catch it when you're already down that path. First thing I do in the morning every day is I wear this red light therapy cap. It has 312 laser diodes. You put it on the head, you turn it on, it's battery powered, and so I can walk about and do my morning routine without having to sit down. It increases blood flow and also stimulates hair follicle activity. The studies on this are pretty good. It's not the most powerful treatment we do, but still it's part of the stack, and so all these little things add up. So every day, 6 minutes.
Yeah, just comment on red light therapy. I think red light therapy is great. You have nothing to lose with red light therapy, right? It's just that you have a lot of variability between some patients will respond just minimally, and some patients will respond very, very well to red light therapy. In terms of which cap is the best or which type of therapy is the best, it really varies, right? So you shouldn't be kind of thrown off even by the number of lights or the number of diodes, right? I think what a lot of the red light caps fail to actually report or say in their marketing stuff is how much power is actually elicited from the red lights, right? Because we know that it's not just the light that's sitting on and hitting your follicles and your scalp, but you have to have a certain level of not just wavelength, but actually a certain level of energy for it to actually penetrate down into the hair follicles, right? So, I mean, there are actually many studies out there, clinical studies out there showing beneficial effects. That includes, increasing blood flow, but also stimulating the hair follicles down in itself. So, again, I use red light therapy in my practice, and I do recommend it for my patients as well. Again, hair loss is something you just throw the kitchen sink at. If it doesn't hurt and you have something to gain, I recommend doing it.
All right, the next thing I do is I apply this topical to my scalp on a daily basis. You've probably heard of topicals like Rogaine and Minoxidil 5%. Both are effective. We added a bunch of other goodies to our topical formulation. We found it in the evidence, and then we had a local compounded pharmacy make it for us. So we've published this recipe. You can take that recipe, share it with a compounded pharmacy, and have them make it for you. Kind of a hassle, I know, but it's the only way to get it done. You can also go to groups that sell these formulations. They may not have all the things we've listed, but if they've got the basics like minoxidil, then cool. But we really tried to create the most powerful hair formulation, and that's what we have. So hopefully it's helpful for you at least to know the things we're trying to play with on the topical. I apply it once a day. You can apply it twice a day, morning and evening. So really your preference. And then one thing we do to enhance the benefits of the topical.
Topical application of anything on your head for hair loss. Some people respond really well, others don't, right? And a lot of it is it's dependent on the absorptive ability of whatever you're putting on your scalp, right? So, I think a lot of my patients, they've used a lot of shampoos and conditioners and potions and this and that, right? But it really depends on the ability of the topical or whatever solution you're putting on your head to actually penetrate down, right? Another thing you have to take into consideration is frequency that you're actually applying it, right? Because it's not, a topical thing is never like I'm gonna apply it once a week or once a month and expect to get any results. You're just not gonna get there because you're not gonna get enough concentration of whatever you're delivering. And in the video he's talking about like minoxidil, right? And that's probably the first and oldest medication for hair loss, right? It's Rogaine, it's the same thing, right? What does that do? It increases blood flow, but you have to get enough of that down near your hair follicles to really have any effect, right? So again, it depends on kind of what the makeup is in terms of how is it penetrating, right? And what goodies there are in your special serum. But I noticed a couple things that he had, and one was minoxidil and two was finasteride, right, or Propecia, right? So I use those regularly in my practice too. Topical application though, it doesn't hurt, but you want to be smart about that and just knowing what you're using.
Do you sell any creams or ointments for hair loss here?
I don't really sell any creams or ointments. I just integrate them into my procedures. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think even going one step further than just topical application, right? Because again, if you have the time and the discipline to have a regimen, great. But I would say for most people out there, we don't have the time, nor are we disciplined enough to be able to stick to this routine. If you can, great. But so for myself and my practice, when they come in for treatments, I will incorporate minoxidil or finasteride or things similar to that in the treatment itself to get good results.
Okay.
The topicals, this and others, is we do microneedling. We've been not consistent with this. So we did it for a while, and then we did so many things in the Blueprint protocol, it kind of got pushed out. So we think it's efficacious. We think it's also a good thing. We were also a little worried because I was doing so many things for my hair. I was doing PRP and microneedling, and we were a bit worried that I was causing too much trauma to my scalp. So just a note that I do sometimes pair microneedling with the topical. Then also there's just some basic stuff like being careful with your hair, not combing too hard, not pulling really hard at the follicles. It's delicate, so just being mindful about that. Not having hair pulling fights, that's not a good thing for hair care. Also, if you are trying to do something about your hair and everything I'm talking about seems overwhelming, you can start with the basic. This hair formulation, just 5% minoxidil, Rogaine, is a really good place to start. You can get them at any number of places. They sell it. You don't need the longer formulation that I have. You can do the simple one, and that will really help you get started. Now, if you want to add other things like red light therapy, PRP, microneedling, these more advanced things, surely. And I'm going to be reporting back too. We just started a new therapy using exosomes. So actually we're using Tixel, which is a skincare system, and also exosomes. So we open up the channels in the hair, in the scalp, and then we put the exosomes. So we're gonna see the efficacy of that. It'll probably take a few months for us to get results. But overall, I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope that it helps you gain ground on slowing the loss of hair and maybe even restoring some that has been lost.
Yeah, so he talks about a couple of different modalities. So he mentioned microneedling, right? Microneedling with like PRP or some other type of solution. And what does it do, right? So microneedling does two things. One, it really helps the scalp and the skin, right? So some people forget when you're looking at hair loss, your scalp is skin, right? So overall skin health and scalp health really helps benefit hair in the long run, right? So what does it do? It helps improve blood flow, stimulates collagen, right? But also it opens up these microchannels. So if you are using some special ingredient that you're applying topically, what it can do is it can help the ingredients or the goodies kind of naturally kind of absorb down through these microchannels, right? Then he goes on later on and talks about a special type of laser that he's using. Again, same principle as microneedling, right? So microneedling is mechanical kind of disruption of the actual scalp and skin to create these microchannels, right? Using a laser is pretty much the same thing, except you're instead of physical needles, you're using heat, right? Or just energy to open up these microchannels. And again, he talked about exosomes later on. I know also he mentioned PRP. These are two modalities that I've used for several years. And if you compare the two, I mean, that's a whole different conversation we can have. I've had quite a bit of success with both. And to be honest, a lot of times I'll use both modalities and combine PRP with exosomes in my hair treatments.
Is it true that he could have been causing too much trauma to his head using both of those?
Yeah, I mean, the thought is, in terms of when he was talking about, oh, he was doing too much for your hair, it's true. Just like your skin, you can be doing too much, right? So it depends on a couple of things. One, it depends on the frequency that you're actually doing microneedling, right? How long you're microneedling for, and the depth, right? So that all factors in, again, because you're going to cause some level of irritation, and that's often seen by like redness, or you feel it by being a little tender, right? But I think if you get on a good regimen and you space it out apart in enough time, you don't really have to worry about causing too much trauma and having negative effects to your hair.
And at the end, he was saying that he just started using exosomes and said it would take a couple months to see results. Is that true? How long do you think it would take?
Yeah, I mean typically for hair, because hair growing is like watching grass grow, right? It doesn't grow overnight, and that's the thing. So that's where hair tends to be a very slow and long process when it comes to treating patients, right? But in the end, the results can be great. Typically, I think some of the results that you tend to see with hair, whether you're using PRP or exosomes or any other modality, is that the texture of your hair changes, right? So you might have thin and fine hair, but everyone knows when you wash your hair in the shower, you know the consistency of your hair. You know when you dry it and you run your fingers through. So a lot of times what you'll see first is actual texture. You notice the hair getting a little more coarse before you actually notice the hair getting longer, because it grows at such a slow pace. For those patients who are a little bit older and are used to getting our hair dyed, I think one of the telltale signs that is it working is how quickly your roots come out, right? So typically when we're older, we're like, oh, I hate it because I need to get my hair dyed so often because my roots are come out. But one of the signs that, hey, the therapy, whatever it is working is, oh, my hairdresser or my hair person is saying, wow, it's like, instead of coming every 4 weeks, I need to come every 3 weeks. And actually that's a positive sign that we're seeing hair grow faster.
Okay. And what's your overall take on Bryan Johnson based on these two videos?
My take on Bryan Johnson is, more power to him. I mean, if you have the time and the discipline and the resources to do it, if it's gonna make you feel younger, feel better, and you can't hold that against anyone. I think what we need to do is maybe use him as the example of what we can do, and maybe find a medium to make it more available to the masses, right? We want to be able to not only change our life, but have a multiplier effect to be able to improve the lives of others around us. One of the big takeaways of what Bryan Johnson is doing is take it with a grain of salt, right? And always consult with your physician, someone who has experience in this background. Don't always rely on what social media is saying, what you're reading on the internet, because a lot of it is just made up, right? And just kind of overblown, right? So last thing you want to do is invest all your time and money into things that may be big marketing schemes. So you take that with a grain of salt. I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. Again, my name is Dr. Jin, and if you did enjoy it, go ahead and smash that like button and follow me.
Yeah, that's perfect.